Heroes and villains always have the same backstory, pain. The difference is what they choose to do about it. Villain says, the world hurt me, I'll hurt it back. The hero says, the world hurt me, I'm not going to let it hurt anybody else. Heroes use pain, villains are used by it. Sean Puri's got this thing where he says, don't follow what most people do because you don't want the results that most people get. The average person is obese, likely to be divorced, and has less than 1K in the bank. It feels safe to do what everyone else is doing, but it's actually a terrible decision.
It's like the best way to guarantee to not have the life that you want is to do what everyone else is doing.
Have I told you about the region beta paradox? Have you seen that one?
Oh,
okay, so this is interesting. So imagine that you had to go a mile or less, and if you did...
A mile?
A mile.
Okay.
If you had to travel a mile or less, you would walk it. And if you had to go more than a mile, you would drive it.
Okay.
So paradoxically, you would go 2 miles quicker than you would go 1 mile.
Uh-huh.
If you follow that rule, the important insight here is that if you only take action when things cross a certain threshold of badness, sometimes better things can feel worse than worse things.
Oh, yeah.
So if you look around and you see that people are stuck in region beta, this zone of comfortable complacency, right? It's the guy that sticks in his just okay job because his boss isn't too much of a dick, but the pay isn't that good and he's not really that passionate, but it's all right, whatever. The person that stays in the acceptable relationship, they're not that fired up, but they're not really in love and their partner's not really got much alignment with their interests. Or the person that stays in a crappy apartment and there's a bit of mold in the ceiling, but it's cheap and it's in a good area of town or whatever. All of these people would be better off if their situations were worse, because it would give them the activation energy to kick them out of the bottom, and their only regret would be not doing it sooner.
Dude, I love that.
This hamster wheel thing that continues to distract you. I've got this concept called anxiety cost. So kind of like opportunity cost. When you have an unmade decision, every single second that you spend thinking about the unmade decision could have been gotten back had you just made the decision. And realizing that it's a justification for eating frogs earlier in the day. I need to answer that email. The longer that you wait until you answer that email, the more times you will think the thought, I need to answer that email. And if we assume that what truly, truly matters in life is the time and the attention that we spend within that time, your time is being captured and your attention is being captured by a thought that could have been gotten rid of had you have just done it. Had you have just had the conversation, broken up with the relationship, left the job, told the father, whatever. Done your stretches, cleaned your teeth, had a shower, whatever it is that you needed to do. All of that anxiety cost could have been gotten rid of had you just gone and done it. Yeah, I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of high performers. On balance, people are driven way more by fear of insufficiency than they are with some well-balanced, perfect desire to just maximize their greatness in life. Like the activation energy for almost everybody is, I'm scared I might be a piece of shit. What? Hang on. Oh God, I might be a piece of shit. I genuinely might be a piece of shit. I need to go and do something so outrageous that I can't be a piece of shit. There's no way that it could happen. I might be a coward. Oh my God, what can I do to stop myself from being a coward? That's the activation energy. You're talking about, it's not you that's afraid of failing. You're afraid of other people's opinions about why you're going to fail. Like, the reason I think that cynicism is so popular on the internet is that the upside of never trying is never having to feel the pain of failure. That's fundamental. It's sour grapes at an existential level, right? It is a cynicism safety blanket. It is protecting you from ever having to feel the downside of anything. I will assure my own failure in private so that I never have to face my failure in public. Did I tell you that story Douglas Murray told me about regrets from Christopher Hitchens? Brilliant. So, Christopher Hitchens, one of the new atheists, was sat in some British pub with Douglas Murray when Douglas is young. And, you can imagine it's some musty Chesterfield sofa. He's probably got a cigarette in his mouth and a glass of scotch or something. And Douglas is vacillating between these two different choices that he needs to make. And he is complaining, lamenting the fact that I have this thing, but I have this thing. And if I do this thing, I can't do this thing. And what do I do? And apparently Hitch sat back and Douglas, in life, we must choose our regrets. And I was like, fuck. So I'm 3 Manhattans deep in Douglas Murray's apartment in Manhattan at 2 a.m, and he sneaks off to the toilet, and I quickly write this down because I know that my half-cut alcohol brain isn't going to remember it. So I note it down. That was all the trigger that I needed, which is also a good argument for noting things down. And I must have reflected on that for a year. I must have thought about it for a year. In life, we must choose our regrets. What the fuck does that mean? Okay, first off, in an existence where opportunity cost is baked in because you don't get to split test life, and by doing a thing, you can't do a different thing. I have the choice between going to the gym and going to the theme park. If I go to the gym, therefore I can't go to the theme park. Even if the decision of going to the gym was the right call, I will always have the open loop of, yeah, but what if I'd gone to the theme park? You can't ever know, right? Okay, so that means that fundamentally, regrets are baked in to our existence. And I'd always thought that the reason I had a regret was due to some suboptimal decision that I'd made. If only I'd made this decision better, I could have ameliorated the regret. Okay, so regrets are an unavoidable part of being a human, and they're a byproduct of opportunity cost, which you can't get away from. But what does it mean that you have to choose your regrets? Okay, well, if regrets are inevitable, if they're going to happen no matter what, an easy way to look at the decision is, rather than which do I want to do, which regret could I live with? Because there are certain regrets that you can't bear living with. Now, you can bear living with them, but they're going to be worse than other ones. So what is the difference between I need to have a difficult decision, I need to have a difficult conversation with my boss about leaving to go and do this thing, or I need to, that's the regret, that's one regret of the sitting down and seeing them face to face and telling them you're going to leave their small mom and pop business and you're the main salesperson and it's going to be terrible and they're going to cry and you're going to feel like a piece of shit. That's one regret. Another regret is looking back at a decade that you waste in a job that you fucking hate. So in life, you have to choose your regrets.
I love that as a decision-making frame because it also jumpstarts our fear engine. Because rather than saying, like, what do I want? It's what do I hate least? And so we get to run it. So then you get to use your run away from engine rather than your go towards to engine,
the
right?
mouse and the cheese again.
Jordan
Peterson talks about a study where they starve a rat and they put it into a tube. They waft the smell of cheese in from the front, and there's a spring attached to the rat's tail so they can work out how hard it's pulling. How hard it's pulling is a proxy for desire, for how much it wants it. And you'd think this rat is starving, it's going to pull as hard as it can. So they waft the smell of cheese in and it runs towards it and whatever. They do another iteration of the study. This time they waft the smell of cheese in from the front and the smell of a cat in from behind. It pulls harder. Why? Because not only in life do you want to run towards something you want, but you want to run away from something that you fear. And this ties into the 3 most common traits of very successful people: superiority complex, massive crippling insufficiency, and impulse control. So superiority complex, I can achieve this thing, that's the cheese. Crippling sense of insufficiency, I fear the cat. Impulse control, I'm in a tube. There is only one direction that I can go. I don't need to make a choice.
Okay.
So this is fame's seesaw. When you're on your way up, everyone roots for you because you remind them of their dreams. When you're at the top, everyone tears you down because you remind them that they gave up on them. And you have one, which is, for anyone who needs a reminder, no one is going to hate on you for doing worse than them. And this is interesting because kind of like the challenges you face in the beginning, you don't have anything to say no to, therefore the woman in the red dress is easy to say no to, or there are fewer women. This is a challenge that nobody is going to give you any sympathy for. It's a very unique category of challenge because the total addressable market for sympathy is basically 0. Because almost everybody is on their way up and very few people are at the top, and the people that are at the top are seen as having a degree of privilege that almost legitimates you twisting the knife or you poking the finger. This is how public figures can have normal everyday people on Twitter say unspeakable, like heinous things to them, dehumanizing things, because they do not see them as human. They don't see them as a person. There is no person on the other side of this. They're a representation. They're a menagerie of ideas. Therefore, I can say whatever I want to them because they're not really a person, but they are. And the fact that before there is any status associated with tearing you down, no one is incentivized to tear you down. And you haven't changed. Fuck, dude. The Lewis Capaldi documentary, I've watched this twice now. No, Lewis Capaldi is the singer, Scottish singer, amazing dude. Really fascinating story. Suffering a lot with mental health. Makes this first album. And billions of streams. World tour. Phenomenal. And he's playing songs that he wrote in 2017 and played in working men's pubs around Scotland. The same songs go to number one. So not just that he's become better, he's the same guy.
Yeah.
The same guy. And maybe his production's improved, maybe his recording quality's improved, he's got better mastering and his voice coaching's got a bit better, but he's largely the same person. He hasn't changed. And he has this quote halfway through, and it really spoke to me, and he said, "Fame doesn't change you, it just changes everybody around you."
Yeah.
And that, when you're on your way up, everyone roots for you because you remind them of their dreams. When you're at the top, everyone tears you down because you remind them that they gave up on them. That really, that spoke to me. Success is the only revenge. As you expand, they shrink into irrelevance. As you get louder, no one can hear them. You don't beat them, you cast a shadow so big, no one can see them to begin with. When people copy, they copy the wrong stuff because they don't know why it worked to begin with. And when it breaks, they don't know how to fix it because they didn't build it. So don't sweat it. Copycats will always be behind.
Good shit.
Conor McGregor won the featherweight title twice because he won the interim because Aldo was injured.
Right.
And then he won against Aldo. And somebody asked him, what are you going to do differently this time again before the Aldo fight that you didn't do against in the Mendes fight? He says, this time I'm going to be present. And there's this photo of him and he's stood like this at the weigh-in, and you've got this entire stadium in front of him, and he stood like that. He said the first time he did it, he couldn't remember it because he was just drowning in what was next.
Yeah.
And what I really loved that Sam said, and I think that, you look at somebody that's a master meditator, or you set yourself high bars for what it means to be mindful, and you realize that you can be present with a sip of a coffee. Okay, I can be present with this one sip of a coffee, and then it, like sand in your hands, or like trying to remember a dream, it just evaporates, right? Okay, well, what if your goal was just to try and get 5 of those a day?
Yeah.
What if that was it? What if being mindful was just 5 moments when you allow yourself to be where your feet are underneath you? And then what if you tried to just string like 2 of those together 5 times a day? Like just this first sip, and then as I put it down, the view out of the window. Oh my God, like that's 2 things in one. And then I can do that 5 times. And if I'd asked him, I would have said, really, is the path to just increase the frequency of the times that you are where your feet are underneath you? And one other cue that I love that I got from an embodiment coach is the times when you see in your peripheral vision, you're looking, and the way that our vision actually works, you're focused so heavily on what's directly in front of you. If there's ever a time when you see what's out here, you realize that it's impossible to see all of that and not be in the present moment because you've naturally just opened yourself up. And I love that cue. So during the times when I'm doing things like that Sam episode, I'm like, the next question, and there's millions of people watching it and all this stuff, and there's this guy in front of me and he's super smart or whatever. This is fucking cool. Just that one moment. And that, when I look back on that episode, that's what I enjoyed. That's what I enjoyed about it. So I think that being where your feet are underneath you and allowing yourself to open up and stringing those together largely allows you to enjoy being whilst you're in the process of becoming. Nothing is going to be worthwhile that doesn't come with an associated amount of discomfort. Therefore, when you start to feel friends around you and the people that you used to be able to speak a common language with start to push back and start to make the quips of, oh, not drinking tonight, yeah? Oh, you must be too cool for us now. I know it hurts. I know it hurts. That is the lead indicator, not even the lagging indicator. That is the lead indicator that you are doing the right thing. And lots of people listen to this podcast. I get messages from people like, hey man, I'm a 22-year-old rugby player from the northwest of the UK. I live in Cumbria. None of my friends understand me. I want to do personal growth. I don't want to live in the UK. And when I listen to Modern Wisdom, I feel less alone. And it makes me tear up because I'm like, fuck, like I see me in that person. I see me in that. And it's so hard to reframe it. The pushback you are getting is the indicator that you are doing the right thing. It is. I got this idea I got to teach you about. The alpha history fantasy.
Right.
Modern men who are angry at a world they feel has rejected them mistakenly believe that they would have somehow done better in medieval times. They are adamant that the chance of them being Genghis Khan is greater than the chance of them being cannon fodder peasant number 1,373,000 whose favela was sacked and destroyed. And it's this wistfulness for the past. And dude, I get it. Like, if you feel lost and alone and like nobody understands you and like you've been forgotten and things shouldn't be this way, guess what? They've always been this way. Yeah. If you can't stop thinking about it when you go to bed tonight, and you can't stop telling your friends about it in the morning, and you've clipped it from this podcast or any other podcast or any other book or whatever the thing is that you keep sending photos of and you keep on reciting to people and you try and tell your mum about it and she doesn't care, that is the thing that you need to work on. And you don't need to do, if you take half a thing from this podcast or any other podcast and you work on it for a month, you have made so much progress. And do you understand how blessed you are to have this opportunity? You could have been born in the Middle Ages before the Gutenberg printing press, when they wouldn't even give you the Bible in the common language, so that you had to go through the priest to be able to have a relationship with God. Right now, you can search for whatever it is that you're dealing with, find the greatest minds on the planet, listen to them, and then the next day implement it, and you move not only yourself, but you move the world around you. You get to nudge yourself and the rest of the world in a direction that you want to go, and you get to feel proud about it, and it's within your control. You have never been more blessed. Another one here, a sequence actually that I love. You don't have to feel good about it, you just have to keep going. The feeling will pass, but you will remain. You are greater than your feelings. Going to bed late and waking up early to work for a few days won't kill you. You're not going to burn out. You're doing what it takes. If you're one of those people that push work-life balance, just remember, the people who like working a lot don't care. I've never regretted trying harder at anything ever. Hard times last long, but an epic story feels like a lifetime.
Nailed it.
Ultimately, what is patience? Is patience feeling patient, or is patient doing the thing that is patience? So Sam Harris, in his first conversation with Jocko Willink about 10 years ago, they talk about how courage is an unfakeable emotion. And it's such a good frame. You're going to love this. Yeah. So he said, if you do the thing in spite of being fearful of doing the thing, that is courage. And if you don't do the thing, even though you felt like doing the thing, that is cowardice. And I think that motivation and patience are exactly the same. If you're patient, despite not feeling patient, that is patience.
Yes.
That is how it works. This was something that Mark Manson tweeted. He put it in his newsletter, actually, and it made me think of a lesson that I learned a long time ago. Stop complaining about the results you didn't get from the work you didn't put in. The only way to become more successful than most people is to be willing to do something most people aren't willing to do. And this is that lean-in mentality again. It's like, look, it sucks, it's shitty, you're tired, everybody says that you're leaving your friends behind, leaving your family behind, betraying your culture, betraying whatever expectation it is that they have on you. You need to do something that most people aren't willing to do, because as we've said, the average American is obese, in debt, and divorced. Like, is that really... Oh, brilliant, fantastic. I'm in the fucking center of the bell curve distribution here. That's really... Congratulations. And then the other side, stop complaining about the results you didn't get from the work you didn't put in. Okay, so you didn't lose weight this month. Did you follow your diet? Well, I did for half the month. Okay, so is it any surprise that you didn't lose any weight? How's your content creation game going? Well, I spent a lot of time planning for the podcast that I'm going to release, or for the Instagram that I'm going to start, or from the Substack that I'm going to begin writing on. Okay, and what did you actually do? It comes back to, like, the work doesn't care. Another one from you that I absolutely adore. It just takes work. Shitloads and shitloads of work. Every time I try and dress it up or cut a corner, I get brutally reminded the work just needs doing. The work doesn't care who you are. It just cares that it gets done. Consistency doesn't guarantee that you'll be successful, but not being consistent will guarantee that you won't reach success. you have a productivity hack, an easy productivity hack. Instead of spending time getting in the mood to work, just start working. Confront the work. People think they need perfect conditions to start, when in reality, starting is the perfect condition. The more I listen to this, the better my life gets. If they don't have what you want, don't listen to what they say. There's no greater waste of time than justifying your actions to people who have a life you don't want. This relates to another one of yours. Don't trade your self-respect for someone else's. It's easy to lose theirs and hard to get yours back. A friendly reminder that in 3 generations, everyone who knew us will be dead, including the people whose opinions stopped you from doing what you wanted all along. Imagine that someone you know achieves every dream and hits every goal they have. Years later, they get old and die. 2 years after that, how much do you care? About as much as everyone else will if you accomplish your goals and dreams. Do it for you.